Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So this is part three, the conclusion of Operation Zero Tolerance. Like I said, it's definitely going to be different in X-Men 97. It's not going to be exactly like the comic books, but I mean, I just wanted to do this storyline since I was pretty sure they were going to touch on this storyline. Just like the Fall of Mutants, they touched on that storyline, bringing in the adversary, it having Forge uses powers, his mystical powers. But of course, they didn't actually go into the Fall of the Mutants storyline because that involves all the other X-Men too. But anyway, I still wanted to do this series because it's one of my favorites, and I also thought this was a cool series, even though it's a little bit, I will say, slower paced, just because of course, it is a comic book. So when we last left our heroes, they were surrounded in an ambush, and they had no idea how they were going to escape. So what happens? See, surrounded ambush. What happens is they get a building dropped on top of them. Yes, a building, and apparently it's Sabra. She did it to mask their escape because she was pretty sure that they'd survive because you have Celia's force field and Bobby's ice that could encase them in. So, and she says who she is. She's a Mossad intelligence officer, also immune. Came because she has information on Bastion that Xavier and the X-Men need to hear, and Iceman says, "Great, the world's deadliest intelligence agency. Does that mean now that you said that you have to kill us?" I guess I didn't know that they were considered the world's deadliest intelligence agency. I mean, like for some reason, okay, only because of all the James Bond movies, I thought it was, like MI5 or whatever, or like the British intelligence agency, MI5, MI6, whatever. Just because of all the James Bond movies, I don't know. But that's interesting. Like, I don't know if maybe that was true back then, like in 1997. Maybe it's not true now. I don't know. But yeah, I'd never really heard that before. And obviously, I forgot I read it. And when I did read it, of course, I didn't understand what that meant because you that was years ago when I first read this comic book. So, they're basically like, why should I trust you? And she says, because I said so. It kind of reminds me of that scene in X-Men where, Wolverine's like, hey, it's me, after, Mystique impersonates him, and Cyclops is like, ready to blast him and says, prove it. And he's like, you're a dick. And he's like, okay. So that's what it reminds me of. Just like, trust me, just, go with me on this. And so they're also like, well, why would you risk, why would you come here? Why would you risk a war? And she's like, I've seen war. I lost my own son to war, to a conflict. Now that Operation Zero Tolerance has involved and Bastion has involved children, like innocent people and children, I cannot stand for that. Like, I have to do something. And plus, I'm immune. I'm like you guys. So all of a sudden, because they know now where Bastion's hideout is, so that's where they're headed on Bobby's like ice slide in the water. So all of a sudden, Marrow jumps off and she comes out of the water with one of the sentinels that has been tracking them. And Marrow, who hasn't been much like above the surface, and even if she has been above the surface, it's really only been in New York. She's like, so this is Connecticut? Like she can see like beaches and land, and there's his house up there. And they're like, he has a really nice house for like a supervillain. Really nice house out in the country. So Bastion knows that they're there, and he's like, come in. And he said, I was hoping that by, capturing your mentor and, you know, um, separating you from your field officers, Storm and Cyclops, that, the X-Men resistance would just die away, cut off the head and, the body's dead. But, he admires, their tenacity, and they see Detective Jones's son there, and, they say, let him and the old woman go. And he says, that old woman is the closest thing I have to a mother. And Celia says, like, how do you feel, Mrs. Bastian, for raising a Hitler wannabe? And he turns her force field against her. Like, I don't know exactly how he does that, but, he's like, I will not be mocked by you filthy creatures. And he again explains, that, she took him in when he had basically no memory and taught him to be human again because he was like at an infant stage in his mind, and he had to disregard certain human feelings like regret and second guesses. And so Rose pipes up and says, you know, and this is how you've learned to be a monster. And Marrow, of course, jumps and says, if this is the only thing he cares about, let's kill her. Of course, she still wants to avenge Callisto because Callisto was seriously hurt, and she took Callisto, back to the Morlock tunnels to be healed, hopefully. And, Bobby stops her and says, no, we don't do that. We're not like that. And he says that, the one thing you didn't count on, Bastion, is that a nation is made up of individuals. And you just thought everyone would just ignore what you were doing, ignore Operation Tolerance, Operation Zero Tolerance, and just let you have free reign just to do whatever you wanted. But a nation's made up of individuals who have, rights and freedoms, and they are willing to fight for those rights, especially, and some of those individuals happen to be mutants, the ones you're targeting. And basically, Bobby says, if it wasn't for another zealot, Creed, I would have been with the X-Men you've already captured. But because my father chose to stand up for our kind, for me and for my kind, then he was beaten by Creed's goons almost to death. And so I was home taking care of him when you started your little crusade. And pretty much he says, like, none of us are here as X-Men because we want to be X-Men. We're here because we're needed. And someone has to stand up to madmen like, he says, Magneto, because of course, Onslaught happened because of what Magneto did to Wolverine, ripped the adamantium out of his skeleton in X-Men 25. He says someone has to stand up to Magneto or Apocalypse or someone like you, people who want to harm either humans or mutants. Someone has to stand up against them. And he's like, it's funny because we're only here because you're trying to destroy us. And Bastion said, the whole reason I'm here is because of my compassion towards humanity. Like, change. Mutations are about change, and change brings about growth. In order for something to grow, the old must be destroyed. And so, in order for humanity to survive, mutants must be destroyed. Because if you are allowed to, basically take over and increase your population, then humanity will no longer exist. So for something, new to be created, something old has to be destroyed. So basically he's saying the very existence of human or mutants necessitates the destruction of them. So, and then Bobby says, the more time I spent with my dad, seeing him struggle to perform like every little everyday task again, and the more I wanted him to get better so that I could get out of there and hunt down and kill every one of those zealots that did this to him. And, all the other zealots that believe that that's okay. And he said, though, then once, I saw him still struggling to live his life, I realized that it's not about hate. Life is precious and that we need to, rise above the hate that, he almost let consume him and focus on love. And he said, what you're doing, Bastion, every time you kill someone or destroy someone or drive apart a family, create a wedge between people, all you're doing is driving yourself even further away from the humanity that you claim that you love. You're becoming everything you claim to hate. And he's like, so kill me if you must. But, you're just becoming further and further away from human. And so there you see Bastion and his sentinels. They're awaiting orders because he says prime sentinels, and they say awaiting orders, and he says on my command. And they're like, Shield shows up and says relay that command, like, but Bastion was going to say stand down because he finally realizes what he was doing like is wrong, is way over the top and stuff. But so basically Shield came and revoked, the Operation Zero Tolerance is, what's the word? It's hot. Their authority to, perform these acts to hunt down mutants. Just, they dissolved it. They're no more. So, so he told everyone to stand down, and they take him into custody and all the Prime Sentinels. And Marrow says, like, why didn't you just let me kill him, when I had the chance? And he says, of course, if we kill him, then we're no better than him. And that's what separates people like him from people like us. So that is the end of it. And like I said, it will be interesting how they do that. I mean, if it wasn't for seeing Bastion on Forge's wall, and if it wasn't for seeing or Creed Gyrick saying tolerance is extinction and having those be the name of the episodes, I don't think they would be heading in this direction. Like I said, Xavier showing up totally threw me off because I honestly thought he wouldn't come until the next season at least. I mean, I didn't think that he would just show up. Like, what the heck? So I'm not positive exactly what they're going to do now. I mean, there are talks that it's also going to be like maybe the whole E for Extinction storyline, and it's really going to be like Cassandra Nova behind everything. And then other people have been saying it's, could be Onslaught, but I honestly don't know. But I feel like if they did one, like Cassandra Nova, then they wouldn't do Onslaught because both of them are kind of like evil Xaviers. I think that might be redundant if they did both of those storylines. Of course, we did in, teaser see a Captain America shield. So again, we'll have to see where this goes. I mean, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that video series. I mean, like I said, I went through it quick because for sure comics in some instances are slower paced and they didn't get into everything, but I feel like the show will show more of the Prime Sentinels hunting mutants down, like pulling them out of their homes. No warning, no arrest warrant, no nothing, just pulling them out of their homes, killing them, capturing them, going after the mansion, going after the X-Men. I feel like, yeah, and I feel like we'll see, some Prime Sentinels embedded in places to where you don't even know that they're Sentinels yet, like we saw in the comic books. Yeah, so I feel like that's definitely going to happen too, but I guess we'll see. We'll see in, yeah, a couple weeks what happens. So until next time. Oh, so now that X-Men's pretty much over, I'm going to get back to work on my mansion. So I'll post more videos of that, soon, like next week. Because just, I don't know, I just got caught up and focused on X-Men and wanted to do like those videos, since they're basing some of their stories on the comic books instead of working on my mansion and posting videos. But now that it's over, unfortunately, and now we'll have to wait, what, like a year until season 2? So we'll see. But yeah, so I'll be posting mansion videos soon. So I hope you subscribe, like, and join me for those. Until next time, bye.